It's time.
Divorce. What a great topic to talk about, right? Everyone sees it, has been involved with it at this time. I think the divorce rate's over 51% at this point in time. So like we all know about it. But what do we really know about it? Do we know about the arguments? Do we know about the splitting of assets? Do we know about the emotions? And I don't think we truly do. And so today, Jamie's on with us again, of course, to dive through the divorce and what that looks like and what it's about. And we'll get into what society, media, maybe you people out there are saying, how Jamie and his team deal with it from their point of view, and then some actionable steps if you're going through that as well. So, Jamie, without further ado, welcome back. And this topic came to me because I have a client going through a divorce currently as we speak. And so it made sense that, hey, let's get into it. I know that when we get into recession type talks and money issues in a society, divorce rates also pop at the same time. So what better conversation to be had before we get into the crazy side of the fall?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on again. It's good to see you and good to talk to your listeners again.
For sure. Well, let's get into the topic. So
yep.
I'll pose this question or pose this statement in this way. Divorce is a wealth event, not just a life event. What would you say to that?
I would 100% agree. And the reason why I say that is because it's either going to make it or it's going to break it. And it can make it if you're strategic and you get your ducks in a row and you keep yourself organized and you make good, solid, practical, pragmatic decisions through the divorce. And you can get through this and set yourself up for success on the other side. I see it time and time again. And then I see it on the other end, right? And we deal with this even in our traditional wealth management practices that we all work in. And I've been working in that space for 20 years now, man. I mean, like the people that just go at it and they think their attorney's just going to handle it all. Those are the ones that have a problem with wealth later on. That's just been my experience.
What are some, I guess, things that people don't really prepare for in a divorce until it really truly is too late? Like, go ahead.
No, I think it's they don't really think through what life on the other side is going to look like. And it's hard enough as someone who's been through this experience. It's hard enough thinking like I'm going to drop the D word and I'm going to ask for the divorce and I'm going to shake up the family and I'm going to lose relationships and I'm going to impact my existing family and my relationship there and all these things. Like you're literally almost in like this constant fight or flight mode. And I felt that, and we can get into the what happened to me personally and so on in my experience. But you're just trying to survive, right? You literally are in the survival mode. So thinking about what do I want to do 5 years from now? What do I want that life to look like? And what do I want my kids' lives to look like? And do I want to, am I going to be paying for college and all like those decisions are on the back burner. And the challenge with that and not thinking that through, as difficult as it is you start making decisions as you're going through the divorce process that don't line up with your ability to do the things that you actually want to do with yourself. When we're working with our clients in a traditional retirement planning, investment management scenario, we're thinking about all these amazing things like, when can I retire? Can I retire early? And do I want to retire to an island and all these things? And we can help them put a plan in place to do that because it's all warm, fuzzy stuff, right? It makes us feel good. And people are excited about that. Divorce is sometimes the complete opposite. So it can really jam people up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the points. Obviously, we'll get to that when we talk about your point of view and what your firm actually does. But I think it's a great intro into it. I want to hit upon kind of the hot topics. So I've got a list of them that I want to talk about. But what do you hear, since you are in it? This is what you do, right? This is your thing. What do you see out there in the social webs and all of the things that people are talking about that may or may not be a myth or may or may not be true when it comes to divorce, the wealth side, the emotional side? What are some things that you hear and see?
That's a great question. There's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of bad information, misinformation, I should say. People that don't have the experience that are sharing information that probably shouldn't. One of the number one comment I get, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, is you should never get married. That's going to solve all the problems, right? It's going to solve all our problems. We should just never get married. And I don't agree with that at all, right? And then usually the next comment that person makes is, I got stuck paying alimony forever. Or people think they're going to receive alimony forever. And that's just not the case either. Like, not getting married is not the answer. And if you get married, you shouldn't be concerned about having to pay alimony forever. Spousal support, different verbiage in different states. I think that's one of the biggest myths is people think that the days where if you get married and you have a spouse that stays home, takes care of the kids, you're going to be on the hook for alimony, spousal support forever. Most states are no longer going that direction. I'm in California, and it's one of the more liberal states as it relates to this. But even California is cracking down on this, where it is now going to more of a rehabilitative scenario. So meaning the whole purpose of alimony is to get you back on your feet so you can move on to the next phase of your life. And it's the end of it. It wasn't always like that. Sometimes it was permanent, and that it's just changing now. And a lot of the states are really, really cracking down on this. So I think, there's just a lot of noise out there. Number one that I see all the time is around alimony. Trust me, as somebody who wrote a check for 6 years, it hurt. 72 checks, man. I wrote 72 checks. I actually was 144 because it was twice a month. So for 6 years, it hurt. But to say like not getting married is the answer, and then if you think you're going to receive alimony or have to pay alimony forever, that's another myth that's out there. That's just bogus.
And there's a lot of equation that kind of goes into the alimony side too. Like, yeah, we don't need to get into don't get married thing because that's just issue. But the alimony is a big one because it's not as clean. It's not as clear cut, right? If you're married for 5 years compared to 25 years, like the equation in the state matters, right? So how do you preliminarily talk through your clients with that of like, hey, yeah, like this could be a route, but it's not permanent. However, it's not zero either.
Once we get a better understanding of the client's financial situation and also the other side's financial situation, because it's all predicated on the income available for support. That's the biggest key here. Income available for support. So think of it this way, how alimony it works out is it's very arbitrary. There are only a few states that actually have a calculator that will tell you down to the dollar what is owed to you. Everything else is very there's a lot. Your attorney is going to have to do a pretty good job if you think you're going to get alimony, right? So we can talk a little bit about some of the tools and resources that we're developing in that respect as well. But think of it this way: is you have one spouse that takes all their money and puts it in the center of the table, and you have the other spouse that takes all of their income and puts it in the center of the table. We deduct for their expenses and your expenses, and then we look at what's left over. And there's a formula based on length of the marriage, and then there's also some aspect of like it's very again arbitrary, like the contributions to the marriage. Those, and you're really looking at that income, which is usually very finite. That's available for support, and that's usually what's used for that support. Now, child support's a little bit different because every state has a calculator, but alimony is very different, which is why we're designing. We actually built a calculator for people to use to get guesstimations as far as what they're in their particular state, what that's going to look like.
Yeah. I've seen it and hear it often of people just saying like, hey, just split it 50-50 and move on. Like, how many of the cases you've dealt with is it really truly that easy just to go, you know what, here's the line split, we're off and running?
Well, that makes sense, but the one thing that people think about miss a lot of the times is they forget the impact that taxes have on these situations. And I'm in California, 50-50 state. If you went to a judge tomorrow and said, here's all my stuff, we just want to divide it 50-50, they're going to look at it, stamp it, and move on. What they're not taking into consideration of all the other components of this, one big one is the tax situation, because if you have $500,000 in your 401k at work and your spouse wants to keep, you have $500,000 in equity in your home, and your spouse wants to keep that property, that judge is going to look at it and go, $500,000, get out of my courtroom. But they're not taking into consideration the impact that taxes are going to have when you take withdrawals out of that 401k later, and the benefits on the tax side when you sell the property for your capital gains exclusions and everything else to come into play. So it's definitely not apples to apples. It's apples and oranges in many ways. And this is the one that people miss all the time. And it's just not that simple.
No, it's not. It truly isn't, let alone the emotional side. And then like one spouse works, one doesn't. You've got all of that into it, but it's not. I've never really seen it split 50-50. Like my current clients, we are as 50-50 as I think you can possibly get, but there's still those little caveats that are there.
Yeah. And some of it's what is going to be best for that client given their goals and objectives, right? That's why there is, even though we're focused on a lot of the decisions that people have to make in the divorce and make good decisions during that process, we also have to get an understanding of what their future goals are. We kind of talked about this in the intro here, but if there's a practical reason to keep the 401k versus the house, maybe it's going to be 60-40 and they're going to be okay with that. Right? So there's all these other, it really is so arbitrary. That's why we have to come in and we layer in that financial planning and some of the decision making and the goal setting and everything else with strategy.
You'll get a kick out of this one because this one, when I saw this one, it made me laugh too. What? Just let the lawyers handle the money. They'll figure out what's best for you guys.
Yeah. When was the last time you had an attorney as a financial planning client and they knew anything about the savings and the money that they have and their financial plan in general? And then you're going to then that same attorney is supposed to go help you decide who's going to keep what and what the most fair and equitable way of dividing up your assets is in the divorce. They can't even manage their own money.
I'm close.
Now, and I say that with all due respect because I have a lot of clients I have a lot of relationships with attorneys. I have some of my best friends are attorneys. But let me tell you, when you peel back the onion, they don't know 401k plan from an IRA or anything in between.
You're not wrong.
It's the reality.
You got to have, whether it's your advisor or another planner, like don't let your attorneys handle it. That is not their role. There are certain roles in this whole situation.
You don't go to the pediatrician and get your kids' teeth cleaned, right? So why would you have your attorney handle everything? Like there's a reason why their specialist exists.
Absolutely. Let's see. One other one as we get into it. Prenups are only for the rich. Now, this one's interesting because I didn't come from money, right? I would have grown up thinking that prenups are only for the rich. Like that's all you hear of, right? Celebrity sports, etc. That's what we hear. But why don't you educate us a little bit about that?
I literally about an hour ago was on another podcast and her specialization was prenups. So we talked about it the entire time. I cannot, now that I'm in this world, I cannot say enough about the benefit of a prenup. And it's not just for the rich. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're just starting off and you just graduated college and you're marrying your high school sweetheart and you guys don't have any assets and you're building this life together and you're starting from ground zero, different story. You probably don't need to spend the money for that type of thing just yet. That's why there's postnups. But as far as a prenup goes, you probably don't need to spend the money on it simply because in most states, whatever wealth you build along the way is going to be considered a marital asset and subject to division anyway. But if you're in a situation where maybe you have a great career and you've started saving for retirement, you maybe have an inheritance from grandma and grandpa, whatever it is, and you've started to build some wealth. It doesn't have to be. We're not talking about 7 digits here. We're talking about just a little bit of wealth here. Spending a little bit of money on that prenup is incredibly important. Not only does it pave the way for your future moving forward, but it also allows you to have a conversation and come to an agreement with your soon-to-be spouse or your new spouse on how things are going to go and what some of your beliefs are related to money and what their beliefs are related to money and how you can help one another in each of those respects, right? And because we each have a different money story. You feel differently about money than I do. Even we've kind of grew up with a similar background, and which is why we do the work we do, right? With not really having a lot of money. But I think even that being said, we still have different money stories. And I think everybody does. And when you're trying to blend those two money stories together in a marriage, it can be incredibly difficult. So, and the reason we don't talk about this and so few people have a prenup in place is simply because it doesn't give us the warm and fuzzies. It's an icky subject. Nobody wants to talk about it. And who wants to think about the relationship and the person that they're with dissolving one day? Like, nobody wants to go down that path. But we don't want to think about our home burning down. We don't want to think about getting in a car accident. We don't want to think about us passing away or our loved ones passing away. But we have homeowners insurance. We have auto insurance. We have life insurance. Why would we not have marriage insurance? And that's all a prenup really is. So if we change the frame, I think more people are going to benefit from it.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Well, let's get into your point of view on what you do as a firm as well. So let's first start, although we do have a previous episode, everyone go on the bio on the website and check everything out. However, I want to start with, what do you actually do as a CDFA and how it truly helps people? Because they see that and they're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, I wish there was more education about the work we do, because I think when you combine the efforts of a CDFA, a certified divorce financial analyst, with the efforts of a good attorney, we can get most people through their case onto the other side with more money in their pocket and with less stress. And so the work that we do, and everybody knows the work that attorneys do, but the work that we do, think of us like the financial planner with a specialization in all of the financial nuances of divorce. Dividing up assets, handling the alimony component of it, child support calculations, even pension valuations will go. A lot of people in our world, for whatever reason, I'm seeing more pensions than I've seen in my 20-year career working with people that I go through divorce. I thought these people were a dying breed.
Right. Like,
not so much anymore. I think it's because we work with a lot of military and first responders and so on. I think that's where that comes from. But we'll help with people with pension evaluations and so on. And we work with the attorney on the strategy. So in other words, we'll organize the financial information. We'll help the client set goals for the divorce and figure out what do we want to keep? What are we okay with giving up? What are some of the priorities that we have? And how do we, like we mentioned earlier, set themselves up for success once the divorce is finalized, like budgeting, cash flow, and those types of things. But while we're taking them through the divorce, we've organized their financial information. We'll even go as far as printing out the financial affidavits that they need to send to the courts and organize and getting them all that dialed in for the courts. I think we're the magic bullet, or the holy grail in the work that we do is in that combined effort with the attorney, where we'll literally draft out a document for the attorney that basically says, like, retirement account. Here's what we have. Here's what we've found related to the retirement account. Here's what's rightfully due to this client. And here are our recommendations, and literally write it down for the client. It can be 2 pages long, it can be 20 pages long, but we'll draft that document so there's a tangible report that goes to the attorney. And that helps with the negotiations. It also helps in mediation. In most states, you're going to have to go through mediation when you get close to finalizing the divorce, or even as part of the process where maybe you just want to mediate and you don't even want to litigate. We will work with our clients and make sure that they're dialed in for that mediation, so they have a strategy. They know how to handle themselves and conduct themselves in the mediation and think what to say, what not to say. But they also have a blueprint of, like, okay, when it comes to the house, this is what we're going to ask for, and this is why. Here are non-negotiables. Here are the things we are okay with giving up, and so on. And it's really, in many ways, a financial coach through the divorce process. That might be the simplest way to put it.
And I would assume, right? Here's me assuming, might make an ass of myself, but I would assume, because you're doing all that heavy lifting, that the attorneys aren't. And I would assume you're not charging $800 an hour like their attorney probably is. So not only does it do better work for them, it makes the entire thing more efficient, and in probably the long term saves them more money because of that.
It's like anything else, right? Like, if you have the expert doing the expert thing, and you don't have somebody who is not the expert trying to do that expert thing, it's going to be much more effective and efficient. And we're going to save much more. I mean, we can go, at this stage, I mean, like, come on, like, how many Fidelity brokerage account statements have we seen? I can read a Fidelity brokerage account in like 10 seconds. They're flipping through it. They don't know where to go. They don't even they don't know who does this company clear through? Who does this company clear? Like, they don't know any of that stuff, and it's not their fault. They're just not trained in this type of line of work. I could go change my oil in my car, but I can also pull up the Jiffy Lube and get it done in 15 minutes, right? Instead of laying on my back in my driveway, getting covered in oil and probably swearing for 45 minutes while I try to do it because I can't get a bolt off or this, that, and the other. It's a simple analogy, but that's exactly where we come in, is we're doing the work much more faster and efficient and at a lower rate hourly than the attorney is. And you're going to keep more money in your pocket that way.
Your point of view, where do people lose the most money in a divorce situation?
I think it just goes back to what we just said, man. Like, thinking your attorney is going to handle everything. And listen, Troy, I made the same mistake myself. I was 13, almost 14 years into my financial planning career. And I basically said, here's the money. Here's all my information. Run with it. Let me know what I need to do next. And for a year and a half, I let him tell me what to do. And which just goes to show you that I'm not perfect. And I made a ton of mistakes along the way. And now my job is to make sure other people don't do the same thing, because I burned so much money just doing that, like thousands upon thousands of dollars on, well, we'll send this email and let me send another, let me call the other side and see what they think about this thing. And attorneys, again, this is not a 45 minutes of me bashing attorneys here, but let's just educate people on this. They are litigators by trade. They are not mediators by trade. So there's a big difference. And if you mediate, you're going to keep more money in your pocket. If you litigate, that's when the gloves come off and the bills go up. So I think that's where people waste the most money.
What have you seen in terms of, I guess we'll call them emotional traps, but emotional things that have sabotaged smart decisions in a divorce proceeding?
It's letting the emotions dictate your decisions. When you're going through a divorce, you now have to be the CEO of your life. And if you look at it from look at it from the lens of a business, you have one party who came together with another party who signed a contract saying that they were going to be together. That contract is now almost null and void. We're trying to figure out a way to dissolve that contract. If you look, and that's really all it is. So if you operate like a business person, like you are the CEO of your own company, you're going to make much better decisions. Practical, pragmatic. Where I see people go off the rails is every time they have a question for their attorney, it's War and Peace email, or they're sending me a 15 paragraph text message to give me context. I'm like, this is not what we need, because it takes money to read. Burns money to read that, and it takes money to respond. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't have anything to do with the case. It's just a therapy session for that person. Allowing to get emotions involved. If you let emotions get involved and not think with a CEO's mindset, you're going to spend a lot more money than you need to anyway.
That's just good advice in general.
Yeah, 100%.
Specifically in this situation. Okay, let's get to some actionable steps. Now, people have listened to us ramble on. They probably never want to hire attorneys again, which is fair. Although I love giving attorneys shit. It's just the nature of the game. Let's get to some actionable steps that they can take from today's conversation. Let's first start. What should they do to prepare before they file? What are documents they need to get? What are steps they need to take before they specifically file for divorce?
I tell people there's 4 things all the time, right? You want to know what's coming in, what's going out, what you owe, and what you own. So really those 4 things: income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. You can do it on a legal pad. You can do it on a spreadsheet, whatever is easiest for you. You just want to get an understanding of what's coming in, what's going out, what I own, and what I owe. If you can organize that information and then get that to someone like us, you're like 75% of the way there. And if you can start that early, it's advantageous. And I'll tell you why. Because what we see happen a lot of times is financial abuse. Once we've dropped the hammer, we've told the other side that we want a divorce, or if they've told us, they've now changed their logins and passwords to all of your joint accounts. They've closed accounts, or they've opened new accounts, or they've moved money around and all those things. If you're thinking this is where you're going to go, you're headed, months leading up to that final that hammer coming down, you want to organize that information while you still have access to all of these things. If you're too late for that, I would be marching myself down to the Schwab office, the Fidelity office. I mean, Vanguard in this stage is the only one that's online, right? I mean, you can call up and get access to your accounts and reset usernames and passwords and all that stuff. A lot of people are like, well, I don't have access to it anymore. It's like, okay, well, is it a joint account? Yeah, it's a joint account. Okay, well, then march yourself down there and get access to it because it's rightfully yours. So you need to get all that information ahead of time. Tax records, mortgage information, insurance information, all that stuff needs to be organized prior to, because I see it time and time again where people lose access to that and it becomes a headache.
And if you didn't, right, say you didn't, I would call all of them and let them know what's happening, including your banks.
100%.
Give them a warning, give them a note, because I've seen it. Money moves, it gets hidden. You can't find it, but you knew it was there, and there's no records of it. So make sure.
And you can freeze those accounts.
Yeah,
you can let just like in the situation of a death, you can call up Fidelity and say, "Hey, we're going through a divorce. I think there's some financial abuse going on," and put that on record because it's all recorded on a recorded line, and you line in the sand, and then what happens after that is now on the onus is on Fidelity and Schwab and those other companies, and a lot of them are not gonna play games. So they're not going to let big transactions happen, things of that nature. The other thing you can do too is go to annualcreditreport.com and pull a credit report for all 3 credit bureaus. I think you can do that like once a month now. It used to be once a week. Now you can do it once a month, but it's still free. And you want to pull a copy of that report so you can get understanding what liabilities are on your credit report at that point too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Who should be on your divorce team, and when should they be on your divorce team?
I'm a big fan of creating this team you for yourself. I of course am biased, so I would say you want to have a financial planner of some sort on your team. I feel like having someone with a specialization in divorce is going to be much more advantageous than having your dad's retirement guy helping you with this. So there's that. A lot of people that we work with need attorneys because they can't get through it through mediation, so they need the legal help. But you can't forget about the other people that are important in these particular cases, and that's your family therapist, right? Your loved ones, friends and family. All of those people you need to surround yourself with that team you that are going to be there to support you, not only on a financial but legal side, but on an emotional side as well. And that story was one of my biggest mistakes, aside from, I made 1,000 of them. Let's just face it, right? I made 1,000 mistakes in my own divorce. Disaster. But I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned was pushing those people away that are there to support you and help you and wrap their arms around you when you need them most. Pushing them away is not the way to go about it. I'm here in California. Good majority of my family's on the East Coast. And I didn't want, I'm 47 years old, but I'm still always going to be my mom's baby boy. I didn't want her worrying about me from 3,000 miles away, what was going on, and how the divorce was going, and was I okay? I was like, yeah, I got it. Just hang out. And that was a big mistake. So you got to surround yourself with as much support as you possibly can.
This might be a piggyback action step for you or a question for you, but like, what should you protect immediately, both physically and emotionally? What should be that first thing that you protect?
I think if I had to do it all over again, I would have let my loved ones know what was happening. I would have put them on notice. So that would have helped from an emotional perspective. We've talked a lot about the financials, so I think we don't really need to belabor that. But we've already talked a lot of the steps that we're talking about, the action items that we're talking about, can be helpful from a financial perspective. I also think you need to protect your physical a lot more than maybe the other two. I used to run 50 to 70 miles a week, my passion, and it took me I'm not asking for kudos here, but I'm sharing this as an example. I just ran my first half marathon Sunday in 8 years, because it took me 8 years from a physical perspective to because it will suck the life out of you. and you're dealing with all the stress of like, you're trying to build a business and you've got the kids and you've got this going on and that going on. Your attorney needs more money. You know, like there's this, it's this pile on, pile on, pile on. And I let the physical aspect take a back seat. I mean, there was a point, dude, where I couldn't even walk down to my mailbox. We're in a more rural area. So like my mailbox is about half a mile away from our house. I couldn't even run to our mailbox because it just sucked the life out of me along the way. So if we, you know, your money doesn't mean anything. Your loved ones don't mean anything if you're not here to enjoy them. So you've got to watch the physical as well.
Last one, and I don't know how to question it per se, but think back through your experience, think back through experiences of some of your clients. Has there been a mindset shift for you that's made the biggest difference between what you went through and that what you're able to teach your clients?
It's a good question. The first thing I thought about when you finished the question was, did you ever hear of a band called Third Eye Blind? Yeah. One of my favorite bands. That's how old I am, dude. But and they're still alive and kicking. Don't worry, they're still crushing it. But they have a line in one of their songs that says something to the effect of like, back down that bully to the back of the bus because it's time for them to be scared of us. And I think about that in a lot of these cases that I'm working on, because a lot of the, I'll just, this is not to be sexist, but 90+% of the cases we work with are women who we're not the financial breadwinners in the family and so on, and they are getting bullied left and right by their soon to be ex-spouse. And it bothers me. Like, I'm almost getting emotional thinking about it right now that we're talking about it. But it really bothers me that people think that they can do that to someone that they supposedly loved. And in my situation, I was getting bullied all the time. Before I left the house, it was, I am going to make this as expensive and as painful as I possibly can. And at every turn, that promise was held. And I let myself get bullied a lot instead of just standing my ground and I think if there's one lesson to be taken out of this entire conversation is you deserve to have the life that you want to have for you and your kids, if you have kids or whatever, or just for yourself. And being bullied, it is time to back down that bully to the back of the bus. And I think about that a lot in these cases.
That's powerful. Thanks for sharing that one, but it's powerful. Also, people, that means you need Jamie and his team because he's been through it. He's seen it. That's exactly what they do. Can you enlighten us just a little bit of what you got coming down the pipe? I know we're going to have an episode when you do launch, but can you talk a little bit about what's going on and tease everybody?
Yeah, well, we've got a pretty big endeavor that I've been working on, a big project that I've been working on for about 6 or 8 months now. And the project is called Secure Split. And in the world that we work in, we use financial planning software because we don't want to just use spreadsheets and whatnot. The software that we use right now, I won't say the name because I don't want to bash them, but it is very antiquated. The user experience is not great. Clients can't access the records. There's no linking of accounts like we would use in our traditional financial planning software that we would use in a regular planning engagement. So we're building that right now for professionals. So attorneys, mediators, CDFAs like ourselves. Early 2026, we will actually have a fully functioning MVP product. We're starting in the state of California because that's where our home state is, and there's a lot of divorces here. And then we're going to bolt on states as we go, along with additional capabilities, like some of the things we talked about, tax situations and pension calculations and so on. All that stuff will be coming, hopefully, to replace family law software for professionals. Right now, though, so we're in beta testing right now. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to send the email to the beta testers that they have access. So we'll be making changes as we go and building that out for probably the next couple of years because it's going to take a little while. Right now, for consumers, we have a Secure Split toolkit that consumers can access at toolkit.securesplit.com. I'm sure you're going to put the link in the show notes for us. But there, users can get calculations on child support, alimony. There's a budgeting tool in there, and they can pay for some premium calculators like things like the Quadro, some tax calculations, and some other things. So it's a free toolkit that people can use to get just educated, right? Because they don't teach you this stuff in school, so we're trying to do our part.
They don't teach you by this. Let's make it I love it. Wait to showcase it, right? So all those listening that you're like, hey, what is this? We'll have a whole demo. We'll do the whole thing when he gets it going. So appreciate you and everything that you do. Keep pounding that. Everyone else, obviously, you know where to reach out to them. You know how to reach out to us. If you need something, please just ask. We can't help you if you don't reach out and have some conversations. So appreciate it. You keep doing what you're doing and look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, man. See ya.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.